Hi, Megan Pinchback here from Dyslexia On Demand to talk about the emotional impact as parents of when our child receives a positive dyslexia diagnosis. I felt like this was a really pertinent topic because when you go out there to the web and you find the copious amount of information on dyslexia, nothing is addressing how we feel as parents with a newly diagnosed child with a massive amount of anxiety and uncertainty as we're flooded with questions, rational and irrational, about this new diagnosis. So in fact, I talk to parents all day long with newly diagnosed children who just don't know where to start and are dealing with a lot of emotional burden themselves. So I feel like this is a little bit of the analogy of the oxygen mask on the plane and putting it on yourself before you handle the child. So our children are going to be looking to us for answers to all these questions, and they're looking to us for strength and support. And the way to do that is by really addressing four main topics that we have so that we can really adequately face our children. So step one is going to be that we have this huge doozy of a situation, and that's handling intervention and handling the public school system and answering a lot of questions. So this is really a blog topic all in its own, but there are a couple main things that we're asking ourselves. We're asking ourselves, can we trust the public schools and what they're telling us? Do they have my child's best interest at heart? Can they provide the best level of impact for my child? And do I have any power if I disagree with what they're talking about? Do I have any control in any of this? And to be honest, the answer is different, campus to campus, district to district, and state to state. But I say always start by learning your rights as a parent so that you can advocate properly for your child. So that's step one. In most states, dyslexia falls under the special ed umbrella, and therefore your child's going to be covered under the Individuals with Disabilities Act, IDEA. So as a parent of a student in special education, I'm here to tell you that you have a lot more power than a lot of times you're led to feel or believe. It's in paper, but once you get around that table with all those other school officials, you can feel like you don't have any power. Remember that you do. But as a parent of a student with dyslexia, in some states, you can be at a disadvantage because dyslexia isn't defined under IDEA, and it doesn't tell states exactly how to address it. So that's why some states have stepped in and created specific dyslexia laws. So by providing more detail than IDEA, these laws give students with dyslexia added rights and protections to regularize what their schools do. So to learn if your state has specific dyslexia regulation or a handbook, such as the one in Texas, go to your state's Department of Education. Also, I have a blog on www.dyslexiaondemand.com that details all this information. And in fact, there's a chart that specifically tells you state by state what your laws are. So some states, like in Texas, we have a Texas Dyslexia Handbook that is 171 pages specifically of rules for parents, what their rights are, and what next steps are. So look into what your state does, okay? Finally, the International Dyslexia Association has a fabulous article on advocating for students with dyslexia, and it lines out the steps of the special education system and your rights as a parent very clearly. Again, if you go to my website and you find this blog, you will find a perfect link to this, okay? The second step, I would say, in addressing your emotions as a parent when you receive this positive dyslexia diagnosis is to connect to others that are in your same boat. So by this time, you've probably already heard that 1 in 5 individuals have dyslexia. So that's a lot of parents who are impacted with the same feelings that you're personally feeling. So, you're not alone. Find those same people who are fighting that same fight and connect to them. I say the first best place to do this is Facebook. Find a local dyslexia support network. Oftentimes, there's actually one that's specific to your area, and you can immediately connect with parents who are walking that same walk as you and might even be at your same school. You can learn so much through other people's experiences that they've already had. And if there isn't one local to your area, make one. Trust me, you'll be an overnight leader and hero because you're creating this platform for those parents. And what better way to learn than by walking the steps yourself and becoming that advocate? On top of that, if we want to look at a much larger approach, look up Decoding Dyslexia. Decoding Dyslexia is a kind of grassroots parent organization who advocate for change state by state, but there are local and state chapters often to Decoding Dyslexia, and connecting into those sites can really help you to meet other parents that are going through the same thing. Step 3, talk to your child. Okay, so we need to remember that our child already knew that they were struggling. Depending on their age and grade level, they may have been working at this really hard for lots of years, but they recognize that there's a difference, and they also probably deep down have questioned themselves and their intelligence. So a dyslexia diagnosis might actually come as a real big relief. But the most important thing to explain to your child is that nothing is wrong with their brain. Their brain's just organized differently, and they're receiving reading and spelling instruction in another way. I always explain to my students that the letters and the sound path in their brain, there's a gate that's locked in there. So we just need to take a different route. The good news that you can tell them is that there are people who specialize in the root, and I will address this more in the last step. It's people like at Dyslexia on Demand. So this isn't a discussion of despair. In my opinion, dyslexic kids are the coolest little people around. They see things differently than I do, and they're so creative and perceptive and articulate. And there's even a whole book about this called The Gift of Dyslexia that can help to explain all these things more, and can actually help to be a good guidebook for you to review if you're addressing this with your child. So as a parent, it's your job to just buff up your child and give them hope and an answer, and remind them that the things that they're awesome about, and that you're there with them every step of this journey, and that everything's going to be okay, because it will. Okay? And then lastly, keep that conversation going. Don't just have it once. Revisit this topic early and often. And even if they seem hesitant to talk, keep bringing it up, because they also feel like deer in headlights and don't really know the questions, or they don't know how to put words to their questions. So if you keep revisiting the topic, they're gonna know that it's a safe thing to talk about in the house. And step 4 is find real help. So dyslexia can't be cured. It's a neurological, lifelong learning disability difference that's based in different brain organization. But with appropriate instruction, students can rewire parts of their brain to access that written code and become proficient readers. It's pretty amazing stuff. But this rewiring can only truly come with the help of a highly trained professional called a Certified Academic Language Therapist, a CALT. A CALT is the only level of dyslexia professional certified to deliver a systematic course of dyslexia therapy that will literally retrain the brain in all the rules of phonics for spelling and reading. They're the root master. They're the gatekeepers I referred to in the last section. Some schools have them, but most do not. So when you ask questions at your school, ask specifically about whether or not they have a CALT on staff. And if not, you can always find one at altaread.org. So ALTAREAD.org. And you can always find access to a CALT virtually at Dyslexia on Demand. So regardless of the state, Regardless of the fact that cults are an underrepresented profession, you can always find one of us virtually to help your child one-on-one. So in my website, I have a link, all these links I discussed, and links to more resources of every place to connect in and your step-to-step guide of what to do as a parent. Good luck, and we hope to talk more later.